When we made our video about the house centipede, something happened in the comments that I did not expect. Hundreds of you brought up the same fear, unprompted, not about the centipede, about something else entirely. The same sentence, written in dozens of different ways. This is nothing compared to the thing that crawls into your ear while you sleep. Some of you named it directly, others just described it. The pincers, the dark, the fear of waking up with something already inside you. So today, we are going to talk about that fear directly, because it turns out to be one of the oldest, most specific, and most completely false stories that nature has ever been blamed for. The earwig, a name that, on its own, has been frightening people for centuries before anyone bothered to check if it was true. Let's start with where this story actually came from, because the origin is almost as strange as the myth itself. The name earwig comes from the Old English term earwigga, roughly translated as ear creature or ear wiggler. The legend attached to that name is specific and visceral, that the insect seeks out sleeping humans, crawls into the ear canal under cover of darkness, burrows through the eardrum, and makes its way into the brain, where it lays eggs, causes fever, madness, or death. This was not a fringe belief whispered among the superstitious. For centuries, this story was taken seriously enough that physicians in medieval Europe genuinely believed it. It appears in folklore across multiple languages and cultures. In France, the insect is called perce-oreille, meaning ear piercer. In Germany, ohrwurm, meaning earworm. The fear was not isolated to one region or one era. It was widespread, persistent, and treated as established fact for an extraordinarily long time before science caught up to it. And here is the part that matters most. There has never been a single piece of scientific evidence supporting any of it. Not one verified case of an earwig deliberately seeking out a human ear, burrowing through an eardrum, or laying eggs in a human brain. Entomologists who have studied this insect extensively have found absolutely nothing in its behavior, its biology, or its sensory preferences that would draw it toward a human ear in the first place. So why does the myth persist? The answer lies in understanding what the earwig actually looks for in its environment, because once you understand that, the entire myth falls apart on its own. Earwigs are drawn to dark, tight, enclosed spaces with consistent moisture. This is the core of their habitat preference, and it explains everything about where you actually find them: under mulch, beneath stones, inside rolled garden hoses, in the gaps of tree bark, in damp basement corners. A human ear canal, by comparison, offers almost none of what an earwig is actually searching for. It lacks the food sources earwigs depend on. It lacks the sustained moisture they require. There is simply nothing biologically appealing about it. The handful of documented cases where an insect was found in a human ear, and there are a small number, recorded in medical literature, involve accidental entry during sleep, the same way any small insect might occasionally wander somewhere unintended. These cases are not specific to earwigs, they are not common, and critically, they involve an insect that wandered in by accident and was promptly removed, not one that burrowed through an eardrum or laid eggs in brain tissue. The myth took a rare, accidental, and ultimately harmless occurrence and built centuries of horror fiction on top of it. Now let's talk about the feature that gives this insect its frightening appearance in the first place. Because if the ears were never the real threat, the pincers seem like they should be. At the end of an earwig's abdomen are two curved, forceps-like appendages called cerci. On males, they are noticeably curved. On females, straighter. They look, at a glance, like something capable of real damage, sharp, mechanical, deliberately threatening. In reality, the cerci serve several functions, almost none of which involve attacking humans. They are used in courtship displays between earwigs. They assist in folding and unfolding the insect's wings, which are normally kept tucked beneath short, leathery outer wing covers. And they serve as a defensive tool against actual threats, primarily other insects, small predators, and anything attempting to handle or disturb the earwig directly. If an earwig is picked up or trapped against skin, it may use its cerci defensively. The result is a mild pinch, not a bite, not a sting, no venom involved at any point in the process. Entomologists who have studied this directly describe the sensation as comparable to being lightly squeezed by a fingernail. It rarely breaks skin. It causes no lasting pain. It is, by any objective medical measure, one of the most harmless defensive mechanisms in the insect world, attached to one of the most fearsome-looking insects most people will ever encounter. The pincers that gave this insect its terrifying reputation cannot do what that reputation suggests. They were never built for it. Now here is the part of this story that I think will surprise you the most, because it is the complete opposite of everything the myth has taught us to expect. Female earwigs are devoted mothers. This is genuinely rare in the insect world, where parental care beyond simply laying eggs is the exception rather than the rule. In autumn, the female earwig digs a chamber several inches underground and lays a clutch of 50 to 90 eggs, but she does not abandon them the way most insects do. She stays. Through the entire winter, she remains in the chamber with her eggs, guarding them from fungal infection and predators, periodically cleaning them and repositioning them to ensure even conditions. Researchers studying earwig maternal behavior have documented that females will actively defend their egg chambers against intrusion and will even consume eggs that show signs of fungal contamination to protect the rest of the clutch from spreading infection. When the eggs hatch in spring, her care does not end. She remains with the newly hatched nymphs, providing food and protection during their most vulnerable early stage of development, until they are developed enough to forage and survive independently. This extended period of maternal investment, protecting eggs through an entire winter, then continuing to care for offspring after hatching, places the earwig among a small number of insect species that exhibit genuine parental care. The insect that centuries of folklore turned into a nightmare creature is, in the most literal biological sense, one of the more attentive and protective mothers in the insect world. So what is the earwig actually doing in your garden, beyond raising its young? Earwigs are omnivorous scavengers and predators. They feed on decaying plant material, fallen leaves, and organic debris, contributing to the breakdown of garden waste the same way many of the decomposers we have discussed on this channel do. But they also actively hunt and consume aphids, insect eggs, mites, and other small garden pests. A moderate population of earwigs in your garden is providing a genuine, if modest, pest control service, consuming the same soft-bodied insects that damage seedlings and tender new growth. The complication, and it is a real one, is that earwigs will also feed on living plant tissue when their population grows large or when alternative food sources are scarce, particularly soft fruit, flower petals on plants like zinnias and dahlias, and tender seedlings. This is the legitimate, evidence-based reason some gardeners choose to manage earwig populations, and it has nothing to do with the ear myth whatsoever. It is a question of population balance, not danger to humans. If earwig damage is appearing in your garden, the most effective response does not involve fear or chemical intervention. Simple traps, a rolled section of damp newspaper, or a length of garden hose left out overnight will attract earwigs seeking shelter, which can then be relocated away from vulnerable plants in the morning. Reducing excess moisture and removing dense mulch piles directly against plant stems will naturally lower local population density without affecting the broader pest control benefit earwigs provide elsewhere in your garden. So the next time you see an earwig, in your garden, in your basement, anywhere at all, you now know the complete truth about an insect that has been unfairly terrifying people for longer than almost any other creature on this channel. The name that frightened generations describes something that has never actually happened. The pincers that looked so dangerous cannot do what fear assumed they could. And the insect at the center of one of history's most persistent myths turns out to be, underneath all of it, a mother who stayed through an entire winter to protect what mattered most to her. That is not a monster. That is one of the more quietly devoted parents in the natural world, carrying a name it never deserved. Has the earwig myth ever genuinely frightened you? Or did you grow up believing it without ever questioning where it came from? Tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one, and based on what happened in our last video, I have a feeling this comment section is going to be full of stories. And if today was the day a centuries-old nightmare finally lost its power over you, then something just shifted in the way you see the small things sharing your garden. That shift is exactly what this community is built on. I'll see you in the next one.